Hey folks, I just want to remind you that there's another big Jyotish conference coming up this fall, Parashara Conference 2023 virtual edition. There will be something like 20 esteemed astrologers speaking at this event, providing both lectures and workshops. So you can still get discount pricing between now and Labor Day for the conference as a whole or portions thereof. So check out the website for the conference, and you can use my promo code Alan Anand for either obviously my own lectures and workshops or anything else for that conference for that matter. So please do join us for this, a very exciting weekend. So my contribution this year will be two elements, a workshop on career and a lecture on compatibility. Now, I've always told my students over the years that if you can simply become competent in discussing relationships and career, you will satisfy pretty much 90% of the needs of 90% of your clients, because mostly that's what people approach you for. So with respect to the career workshop that I'll be providing, that's 4.5 hours, something like that, there's quite a lot to cover in this, and it's very well worth your while because, so many people, struggle to find their niche in life. And yet it's something that you're going to do for, not years, but decades. So it's important to get it right if you can. In the old days, in India, Indian culture, of course, you would be born into a caste which would, largely predetermine the nature of the work that you would do. If Brahmin, then you would be, in an academic or spiritual, religious, artistic, cultural kind of form of work. If you were Kshatriya, then, the administrative duties of government, or whether army or police and other security systems would be the kind of natural thing. If you were Vaishya, well, then it was, more along commercial lines, buy, sell, trade, negotiate, etc. And if Shudra, then it was more or less labor, both manual labor and skilled labor. So, nowadays we don't have caste system, certainly not in the Western world, and even in India, that is breaking down. By virtue of education, people, can basically climb a ladder and their own abilities are their only limit to what they can achieve. So nowadays, we can use the horoscope as effectively a kind of a caste indicator with a whole lot of nuance applied to that. So in this workshop, I'll explore some very key principles. One of which I'll share with you here right now, which is that planets and kendras are dominant. And with that basic notion in hand, you can then do amazing things just with grahas and kendras. You can, split them off into benefics versus malefics, and you can make judgments about what sort of broad nature of a career a person can follow or should follow as a consequence of that. You can also assign caste to each of the grahas, and you can do a kind of a caste-oriented triage, if I can use that word, in terms of indicating those careers which are best suited for the individual. Then after that, of course, many of the classics refer to single grahas as, providing, pointers to likely career. And that still exists, and I'm going to explore that in some detail as well, single graha indicators, especially those in strength which occupy the kendras. And that's another key principle. It's not just occupation of kendras, but that graha being in strength as well too. But then there are multiple graha combos as well too, which provide a whole lot of other nuance in terms of the various avenues a person can follow in terms of career. So all of this will be explored in some detail with, as is my tendency, a multitude of chart examples to make sure that people really understand the principles that I'm discussing. Then a good chunk of this workshop will also be devoted to what we can loosely refer to as a kind of a Sudarshan method, wherein we look at the horoscope from the point of view of the Udaya Lagna. That's the naturally occurring eastern horizon ascendant, but also Chandra Lagna, which is treating the moon as if it were the ascendant for the horoscope, and Surya Lagna, which is treating the sun as if it were the ascendant for the horoscope. Using all three of those, we can look at which planets are dominant in their influence by either rulership, occupation, or aspect upon those three pivotal points. And then we can get a kind of, let's call it a confluence by common agreement. Those that generate the greatest number of hits will kind of, rise to the top. And then we have to perform another kind of triage by looking at which of those grahas are strong, or maybe the strongest among them. And sometimes it's simple, the one with the greatest hits that has the greatest strength, bingo, that becomes a so-called pointer for the career. Other times that's a little more difficult to assess, but again, I'm going to have multiple examples that I'm going to walk you through that so you can get it clear in your head on how to apply this, for yourself as a first test, and then for friends, family, and ultimately, of course, the satisfaction of your clients. So this is a big chunk. This will be on Thursday, November 16th, first day of the conference, this workshop on finding career in the horoscope. The next day, Friday the 17th, Friday, day of Venus, perhaps suitably, I'm going to discuss compatibility in the horoscope. So, this is a technique that was taught to me and as many other students by Hart Defoe, which is looking at the horoscope, a pair of horoscopes, of course. We're talking about compatibility. And, there's the traditional Dashtut method, which is, so common that it now finds its way into all of the astrological softwares, which typically provides a score of 36 points maximum. Well, in my experience of, thousands of clients, I've yet to see a horoscope pairing that generated the perfect score of 36. And that's not the point of this, to find the impossible. The point is to understand this scoring system and what is a failing grade and what is a passing grade and what might be done or what can't be done in the face of such grades, positive or negative. So a portion of this lecture will be about that. But the biggest chunk of the lecture is going to be about a methodology wherein we look at four key elements of horoscope. And actually, we're looking at a pair of horoscopes and the interaction between these four key points with respect to the two horoscopes under study. And those four key points, as you might guess, are the ascendant, the moon, the sun, and because we're talking about relationships, Venus, the karaka of relationships. So 4 points to be considered for each of two horoscopes. Basically, we can then create a 4x4 matrix, which gives us 16 points of comparison between these various factors. And we judge them to be positive or negative, depending on the relation between the two, what we can call friendly aspects or unfriendly aspects. And then, overall, we're going to look at that to see what the overall, positivity versus negativity is in that comparison, the matching of horoscopes. And then if we need to, we can drill down a little bit further and look at the exactitude of those aspects as well, too. And bottom line, we'll come up with a prognosis for that pair of horoscopes. And you can even, zero in then and say, by and large, this is like a four-legged table on a, cobbled stone terrace. And it's a little bit wobbly one of the legs is, a little wonky. Well, we can remediate that in some respects, and the other three are solid. But you could actually highlight which one of those legs is the wobbly one for this pair of prospective partners. And that can be very useful in terms of the client being able to walk away with saying, well, it's not perfect, but I know now what I need to work on. So this will be the topic of that lecture, Friday, November the 17th. Okay, so basically that's it. I hope to see as many of you as possible join this conference, not only for my own presentations, but for the many others that are being provided by 20 different astrologers in this, very complex but rewarding field of Jyotish. All right, take care. Hope to see you soon.